chair so that I can come to this presentation. But we're really us. Like when people come in and they know who they're supporting, so kind of to what the keynote we were speaking of, they're supporting John and Kendall, they're supporting our team, everybody knows all of our teammates' names. For us, it's all about that personal connection. John and I, we have founding our core principles, and number one is passion with purpose. And if we don't love it every day, what's our bigger purpose and what are we doing, then it's not worth doing. So we get to work and we kiss on the doorstep before we go into work every day and say, this is freaking awesome that we get to come into our work every day. And then I saw this lady give this presentation one time and she did this. Hold on, I gotta do it. So she lays down in bed every night and does that, and then I thought, what is the clap on, clap off light things? But she said, no, she lays there in bed every night and gives herself a high five because she just had another awesome day and she lived it the way she wanted to live it. So we feel pretty good that even on those challenging days, and again, the hard ones still, you're just like, if you think of it as an adventure, you're like, well, great, that was that test today, and tomorrow I get to get up, it's in a whole new day. So I think, though, for us, it's all about that connectability and just being true to ourselves, being true to others, being authentic, and then enjoying the ride. Like in the end, my previous job was working with survivors of human trafficking, and right now I sell cheese. And so I feel like it's like a joke in and of itself to say we sell cheese. So just trying to keep that in perspective.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I before returning to work with AIBA, I had a PR business, and having that positivity of knowing your own story. I think everybody, we are all, as humans, we are naturally drawn to each other's story. And my PR business slogan was actually, what's your story? And I do think, like with your huge readership, people are so fascinated, and so I'm going to bring it back around that part of the reason they're fascinated is because you're in Austin. So how do you think you're being Austin-based, and how do you think that impacts your business, and how do you use local in your business? I'm going to start with you. Can we start with you?
Yes, okay. All right, I'll go first. So for us, we opened during the recession into 2010, but it was in 2008 when John quit his job. Somebody had to be the breadwinner. No, I'm just kidding. That's a really big joke because I was in the nonprofit world, so we say with his ability to crunch the numbers and my ability to basically work for free, we surely open our own business. But anyway, for us it was that people say, oh, how did you open during the recession? What was great about it was rent was cheaper. People needed work, so there was a lot of benefits to being able to open at that time. For us also, it was really the forefront of kind of our current go local food movement. And people are already doing it. We weren't the first to do it, but we have a couple urban farms. Chefs were really just at that time starting to do the whole, here in Austin, farm-to-table movement and market it. And so for us, John always says luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. So we definitely worked for it, but we were right on the front end of that, and we were one of the first people to open up and be doing that and really giving a voice to the producers and trying to say, hey, cheese, I just came back from the fancy food show, and that yes, artisanal cheese can seem fancy, but in the end, cheese is actually food is essential. So how is it that food is essential, but cheese is fancy? Yet cheese is one of the essential ingredients in foods that people use to sustain themselves, and was protein during the winter months when the cattle were breeding or the sheep were breeding and they didn't have an access source to milk. So for us to be that storyteller and start to put a price on it and say, actually, this is made by a woman, Chrissy Omo, who's out in Blanco. She started when she was 16 years old. She's put herself through college now at Texas State. Her whole family now works in the business. I mean, that cheese that tastes good, now it tastes that much better, and you know why, and it's about that local dollar going back into it, how much work that just went into it. And so for us, it's about developing those relationships with our producers and with the consumers, and we were really lucky specifically in Austin that we were in on that, and I guess if we're trying not to be vain, I think some of our team would say what they've been drawn to about our business is they were some of the first folks in our business to pioneer that story. And so we say we don't craft cheese, we craft an experience, and we craft stories, and we're the storytellers, and we got to be involved in that on the front end in Austin. So now we just have to stay relevant.
Yeah. Okay, how about you, Russ? How does local work for you?
So Austin was a perfect environment to start Comnio. One, because when I first moved here, I had never moved out on my own other than college, which didn't really count because I had like 2,000 friends there. So moving to Austin was my first time to really get out on my own. What I found about Austin that's fantastic, I haven't really found it in many other cities, is that it's very easy to make new friends here. Whether you're meeting a complete stranger or you're walking into a business and about to sell them something, people give you the time of day. They're at least going to listen to you if you're polite and you're kind to them. And I haven't experienced that in a lot of cities. A lot of people are so focused on what's in front of them that they forget about the people that are around them. So that was one thing, is the friendliness here. The second thing that made it great to start the company here was the weather. If it rained in college, I was known for not going to class. I don't like bad weather. That's why I got out of Kansas City as quick as I could. So the weather has been great because it allows me to go out and do prospecting. And if it was raining or if it were cold, there would be less of me on the street in front of so many great local businesses trying to grow my company as aggressively as I am. So that's what Austin's been great for Comnio.
Awesome. And how long have you had Comnio and been in Austin?
I started it August 28th, 2013, according to the state of Texas.
All right.
And it's been here since I started. So.
And do you have, did I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, did I see that you have Comnio in other languages? You work in other languages?
So yeah, we've already started thinking internationally, and not necessarily internationally, but thinking about business owners that don't speak English as a first language. Mm-hmm. They also need marketing, especially if you're in Texas.
Yeah.
And so when I first started Comnio, we were actually a completely different business model, as I mentioned, where we're making money. And we had started generating like a social presence in those other languages to try to just create that presence. And so that does exist. The nice thing about Comnio is it's a made-up word, so it means nothing in any way.
Yeah, that is good. And how many employees do you guys have now?
11, I think, at my last count. Not all of them are full-time, and so a lot of them are contract-based, so they'll spin up if we need them, and they'll find something else to do if we don't, and that's how we keep our prices low. So
that's fantastic. All right, and Mr. Hugh?
Well, I'm in a real unique position because I'm a native Austinite, right? So Austin means a whole lot of different things to me because I've seen the whole evolution. So, growing up, small town, sleepy town, but always when I look back, realize it was always, it had that sense of creativity, of artistic, something there. Early on, it was like the Tracors and Texas Instruments and, the budding electronic, industry before there was Dell and all the others. And then also growing up the music scene, right? So growing up on the east side, there are places few of you guys would know about, like Charlie's Playhouse and some of the others on the east side. And then there was Armadillo World headquarters that Bruce was talking about, and a lot of places in between. So, there was that creative, cool, cosmic, cowboy thing happening. Then we had the blues and R&B and the Chitlin Circuit with Victory Grill and all that, growing up. And now, looking at the industry I'm in, I'm blown away and just have so much admiration for our food industry now. That we're this focal point of creativity. And ironically, a lot of what we now know is creativity, like, from, farm to table, is really another come full circle because I'm the first generation born in the city. Both sides of my family, they came from rural, central Texas. So farm to table is what they did, that's how they lived, just didn't have a label or a tag attached to it. So I have so much respect for what you alluded to, that we're realizing, and there's this rebirth of concern about where's your food come from and what you're dealing with and all these things that are affecting us from being mass manufactured and GMO and all that. And how cool is it for me to still be in the game? I wake up grateful every day to be a part of this incredible scene and try to carry the torch of old school Nighthawk and other things that are part of my history. But man, embracing and loving and digging what the new generation behind me, they're adding to it. They're putting us on the map, and it's just really cool to see what so many, I can tick off all the names that are really we are a brand, and then I'm so proud to still be in the game, still be a part of it, and so really cool place to be right now.
Yeah, it really is. So as we see the town grow, and aside from, I know we're all wondering what's going to happen with our economy right now with our new president, but seeing, we're a boom town, we're expected to double our population over the next few decades. How do you see keeping your We're Local message going through that? You were just mentioning relevancy, so I think it must have been on your mind recently.
I just have to put an asterisk back
Sure.
after a second ago and say, just as you were saying, that there are a lot of chefs who've been cooking great, good, real food for a long time. And so I just want to make sure that I clarify that by no means is that a new thing. And I completely agree with you in that it's now how it's being labeled and marketed, and that we've got to be on the forefront of kind of making that story accessible and telling it to the mainstream. So I just want to make sure that I don't take any credit for that.
You're fine.
So the question was relevancy.
How are we going to stay relevant as our boomtown continues booming?
You know, I think something that's interesting for us, we opened 7 short years ago. At that time, people were coming from all over Austin to see us. And now, within this 7 years, really, it's our local neighborhood. And it's because people don't want to brave the traffic. They don't want to get on the highway. The majority of our best friends live south of the river because they're cooler than me, as they tell me all the time. And they don't come see me maybe once a year. And so all of our, as business owners, if we can't even, and these are good people, my friends are awesome. If we can't even get our good friends to brave the traffic, we have a big question on us of how people want to, and their heart is there. I shop locally year-round, and then Christmas is the busiest time of the year for us in retail and food, and so then I end up buying all of my family's Christmas presents on Amazon. I know, but I actually already have it as a written goal before today that said I would plan ahead next year and not do that. So it is a personal goal too. So for us, it's how do we, I think, with the changing demographics and traffic patterns. So John and I only ever wanted to be one small shop. We'd be cute, cut our cheese every day side by side. Now we realize it's much bigger than us. The demand was huge. Like chefs just started coming to us when we opened. So we either needed to downsize or get bigger. There's some questionable financial years on the books. And now, though, we realized we have this amazing team that we want to support. We want to provide opportunity for them, and really the only next way we see to do that is to open more retail locations, specifically in Austin. So we don't have a dream yet of being, I never say never, but of being outside of Austin, but really just now specifically like, okay, we're in Hyde Park, North Central, then there's so many opportunities within Austin to still be tapped. And in the food circles, these smaller foodie niches, everybody's like, God, Antonelli's, you're everywhere, in kind of a joking, but we're kind of sick of seeing you way. And what's hilarious to John and I is it's like, man, we feel everywhere in those small groups, and that's probably like 2% of Austin's population. So we have a lot more places to get out, and I think that that's one of our biggest challenges right now, is how are we getting this message out and then making it, we're a destination. You don't need artisanal cheese, so how do we get those people into our shop? That's going to be driving for us.
And I would love to carry your point about relevancy, particularly, being in business 18 years. And you guys are everywhere in a really cool way, though, because the food community, doing things from, Boggy Creek or whatever, different benefits. And I see you guys everywhere, and just y'all represent Austin really well. And I didn't take your earlier remarks out of context. It was I was actually using thumbs up for people like you, what y'all are doing. But being in business 18 years, I'm a part of the Greater Austin Restaurant Association as well. And we had our board meeting, a few weeks ago, and Rob Balin, that some of you guys may know by name, he pointed out the reality as we celebrate, the thriving restaurant industry here, and 100 restaurants opened up in Austin last year. But what's not mentioned, as much as 70 closed down last year. And so, for me, it's real important to try to figure out what, and having to redefine my lane and to stay relevant, be relevant. We're all struggling with, limited resources, limited talent as far as front of the house, back of the house, surviving, again, it's that monkey bar, again, we're all kind of sweating it. And so it is about, regardless of being just a few years or, 18 years and many others, it's like, how can you remain relevant? How can you stay in business? How can you be sustainable? I think we all have that in common, and even beyond our restaurant businesses, I'm listening to other stories in other industries, it's about being relevant, and that ultimate report card, scorecard is providing something that people want and will come back to again, ultimately.
I think Hoover, you brought up a good point. As much as we can in this room be collaborating so one way that we try to stay unique is we do events nonstop with people all over the city. So we've done, I don't know, lots of weird different events, but parm dinners here, or I don't know, so I'm looking out and I'm like, oh yeah, we could do like a cheesy recipe, favorite cheese books at Book People, or we could do this or that. And so the power of bringing all of our people together, but I think that keeps us relevant in the news, and that, so how are we doing those fun, unique collaborations? Only when they're a win-win. Because we get invited to do a lot of opportunities, which...
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you all know those, but this is really good marketing if you do this. Anyway, so I think however we can all collaborate in fun, unique ways is good too.
Yeah, one of the things we're finding to stay relevant is that we need to get in front of our business owners more often to understand really what their needs are, because sitting back and assuming what they need is not going to help it. You have to get in front of them and find out, because their businesses are changing too. And so we've had to change our structure. We went from 1 plan to 3 plans to make it more accessible for different types of businesses, and staying relevant, being in front of them and looking at different ways to solve the problems that they're facing, that we're also facing as a local business, is how we're going to stay relevant.
Sounds great. Okay, so we're talking about what we can learn from you. So let's think about, do you guys have another tip you would like to share? If you could leave us with one tip from your years. I'm totally putting you on the spot. One more tip.
Does anybody in here work with their partner?
Yeah,
Couple? Okay. I think for us, so people always say to John and I, how do you guys work together every day? And we just look at each other and we say, what do you mean? We get to work together every day. Like, we literally quit our jobs so we can get together every day. And if we drive 2 separate cars, then we know that this is gross. By the way, my mom tells me it's disgusting all the time. And she raised me to be a strong, independent, liberal woman. And then I'm with my husband all the time. But it just turns out that we really like each other. But for anybody who hasn't, we have to constantly reassess ourselves and be like, okay, wait, we committed, no phones in the bedroom. Or at this time to this time, we don't talk. Or I met Kristen Dickerson, who's the owner of Raven and Lily, which is a socially conscious jewelry designer here in town, working with artisans around the world. And she has a rule that at 5 p.m. every day, she turns off her phone, doesn't turn it on until 9 a.m. the next morning, and then leaves it off all weekend and doesn't check it at all. So that's something I'm aspiring to. I'm not quite there yet. But so I think for anybody who works with their partners or maybe their friends or somebody that they see a lot is not only setting those boundaries, but constantly reevaluating them, because there's times that you're going to have to verge off of them. Like for us, it's like, ooh, we're in the holidays, we're going for it, we're working all the time, and then just making sure that we keep that balance and come out of it. And along that lines, one other tip I really learned at a training seminar with Gary Keller that I really appreciated is, we always see at these seminars how to live a balanced life. I don't know if you've seen them, and I feel like, I don't know, they're really good. They're really good talks.
Balance is a big thing. People are always pushing the balance.
And so for me, one of the ways John and I did that was we said, well, to hell with that. We're just going to make our personal or professional. It's all going to be one big same pot, which has its own issues. But the best metaphor I ever heard is when you're actually balanced, like say you're on one of those core ball things, and you're balanced or on a beam, you're not doing anything. You're actually the whole time doing all these little counter movements back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I thought that was one of the best metaphors I ever heard, because it took away all my guilt, meaning like, oh crud, I missed the kids' Halloween parade, and I feel a little guilty about it. And then I remember, wait, it's just get it back. And so it's all these little counterbalances that we're seeking in life. And so I just love that metaphor that you're never actually perfectly balanced, and we should stop trying to attain that and then just keep working towards it and swinging back and forth. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times with the balance, we're thinking that there's going to be the perfect day of we're going to work for so many hours, and then we're going to exercise, and then we're going to relax. And it just, especially when you're an entrepreneur, it just doesn't really go that way. And fortunately, we're passionate enough about what we love that when it filters through, but we do have to have those boundaries. Yeah, that's a great point. How about you, Russ?
I'm going to provide 3 tips, if you don't mind.
Please do.
Because I talk quickly. So the first tip is always remember why you got into what you were doing, and remember what you're doing it for, and it better not be for money. The second one is, and what that means, writing a mission statement, then write a mission statement, but make sure that if it does reference creating value, that it's lowest on the list. Like, remember what's really important to you and the impact that you want to make with your business. Number 2 is, like you were saying, work-life balance. find ways to balance your work and your life so that you're not always working or always, paying too much attention to your personal life. Don't be afraid to tell your team you're busy. I'm horrible at this, but I make myself really available to my entire team, and they became reliant on that, and so they wouldn't problem solve on their own. And so what I started doing is I'll turn off Slack. My entire team's remote. I've met 2 out of the 11 face-to-face. And I turn off Slack, which is how we communicate, and they have to problem solve on their own. It's kind of like, here, you're on your own. But it works. So making yourself not too available to your team is also another tip. And then the third one is use a shared inbox. If you have a general incoming email inbox, so many people make that responsibility one person. You can't do that because people are going to be using that constantly. Make sure that you use a shared inbox. And one of the softwares that I recommend is called Front. It's extremely easy to set up and use, but it'll make your life so much easier.
Fantastic. All right.
One thing I try to remind myself of, attitude can serve you better than aptitude so often. So much of it starts here. And Skip heard me last night just pull on the tablets down and to remember that let life flow through you, not happen to you. And that goes back to, to attitude again. Is it a mistake or is it a lesson? And the other thing is just perseverance, just remember being in business is, for most people, there are exceptions, but for most people it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And, just again, back to that attitude is, understanding that no is part of the landscape that we operate out of, right? Don't accept it, we are given free will to make the choices on what to do when we have to encounter and deal with life lessons. And it goes back to that attitude on how we handle those that again, if it doesn't kill you, make you stronger. So I think, always, this is me preaching to me, reminding myself about attitude, not accepting no, pushing through the no's that you will encounter in business, and understanding, it's not, the immediate gratification, even though you do want to stop and smell the roses, as and the previous speaker talked about, what is it, sell fast and live slow, is that right? Or is that right?
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm getting more out of this than anything that I could have shared with y'all.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you guys very much. We do have time for Q&A. So do you folks have questions for these folks? Anyone?
Not all at once.
Not all at once. Y'all looking shy.
I missed the name of the shared inbox.
It's called Front. Front app is the website.
F-R-O-N-T.
Yep, Front.
How does that work? Is there anybody, can you use it with Gmail?
Yeah, so it interfaces directly with Gmail, and we use Gmail as our email service, but we have a custom domain. And so you have groups and you have inboxes. So a group would be like info at, and an inbox would be like Ross at. And you direct them to this Front application, and you can use it for your own personal email, but you can also assign emails to people, so the rest of your team, all within one place. And those shared emails, info at, hello at, sales at, accounting at, all go into one inbox, and you can assign it to your HR operations person or project manager, whatever it is. So
We can talk more about this after, but I want to ask more. So I already have something like that, but if you wanted certain employees not to be able to access all the information that's in the email and all the stored folders, would you like to do that?
yep, you can do that. You can set rules. You can comment on email threads. You can actually have incoming text messages go into Front as well. I mean, it's not just email.
Ross, where were you 7 years ago when I set all this up?
I'm trying to start this company.
Never too late, never too late.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, who's next? Who's got another question or comment? Yes, David.
I suppose in your history you haven't had any difficult employees. I just wonder if you have some tips for, how to hire, how to fire, how to manage, stories.
Please.
One of my favorite interview questions that my co-founders still hate is, do you have pets? And if so, tell me about them. Because people that have pets are naturally compassionate for others, and call it discriminatory hiring practice, whatever you want, but people that have pets are kinder because they care about something that doesn't give them anything except stains on the carpet and hair everywhere. So that's one of my secrets.
Kids count?
Kids also count, yes. They have to be good parents though.
Reptiles, I was curious.
Reptiles, low maintenance pets also count because you're also caring for something. And if they give it a name, you can tell by the answer if they're a compassionate person, but that's what I look for, is that compassion for others. I ask them to talk about like a mentor or somebody that's important to them. And that's not like a canned answer or something like, this author, it's a family member or something. So.
We did, in 2015, we took on, for the first time, we hired a group called Culture Index. And so basically for each position in our business, we create a profile and somebody answers questions. We don't use it as all of our hiring practice. It's just one small component of it. We still also do an interview. We still look at experience. We also do references. But for us, and they're not all created equal, but for us that was a big step because it was pretty expensive and we're like, wait, we're this non-profitable little mom and pop, why are we going to do that? But we found that we hadn't hit the nail on the head on figuring out necessarily how to hire the right management positions. And then also because we're sociable, nice people, we hire everybody who's worked with our business is freaking amazing. And I think, I don't know if you guys feel that way, but everybody is amazing and they're going to be amazing somewhere. It just may not be that it's the fit within our business. So everybody we've hired is passionate and they love it, but then do they actually necessarily fit? And a lot of times it's really fitting about, it's not necessarily the business, it's with John and I. Like they're going to have to fit with us every day, day in and day out. And so that was a big step for us to hire like an additional training course and pay a lot for it. I will say, I guess one of my biggest stories about letting go my first person was, it was the day, this is such an awkward story, just so everybody knows, but just so that you don't feel too tied to your business or that everything is always so drastic. For us, we had finally gotten 2 full-time employees going. We felt like everything was ready, that John and I would be able to take that first break since we had opened our business. So this is like in year 1.5 to almost 2 years that we were going to be able to finally take a little break, take a little vacation, and that we were ready to start family planning, and we wanted to try to have a child as well. And something went awry at work, and I had to go in and let go of my first employee, and I started crying because I was like, this means we can't have kids. We got to push it back. It sounds silly, but really you're like 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, 2 steps forward. Like, I mean, when you're, I don't know the size of everybody's teams, but when you're doing literally everything that runs the day-to-day operations, so you're doing the work in the business, and how do you ever find time to work on the business, which means from like 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. we were paying the bills. We were also, I think, really inefficient at those days. But so that was a big thing for us, because for John and I, one of our core principles is family first, then business, and it goes throughout our business. It means somebody in our team could get an emergency call and they stand up and walk out and don't have to tell me a word and we'll figure it out later and I'll trust them for it. Or it means that we know the name of the postman who comes into our business every day. We know the name of his children and their ages and how's he doing, even though he's in and out in 15 seconds. So family first and business is a big principle of ours, and we determined this business isn't worth it if we can't continue to pursue both of those simultaneously. So that I had this aha moment after we let this young woman go, who's extremely talented locally and doing lots of cool stuff. And I went and I was like, wow, I will never be defined by that. My personal life will not be defined by my professional life. My professional life will not be defined by my personal life. So then we had a baby.
Fantastic.
But it was a hard moment for us.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that, because I can imagine how that impacted you with both sides of the business and the personal. Okay, who's got another? Did you have a follow-up?
Oh, I was going to open it up for answers from the audience there, but no, this is good stuff. It's tough to fire someone, because I realize the impact that we realize is you may be impacting, or you are impacting more than that singular person. There may be a family, even though they may not be the best of whatever, but I have to get into the zone and ultimately tell them before the event happens of you're going to make me. You're going to fire you, not me going to fire you. And I think it's important to be able to sleep at night, is to at least be in communication to let them know this is kind of last call, and then you can do that in a formal way, but just being able to communicate, so, your integrity is intact, and, it is tough, to have to separate, I've had to fire a lot of friends and family members over the years, and people I really and truly love, but they, they weren't doing what we needed them to do, and it was dragging other people, the rest of the team down. So it's a real tough place to be.
I think that's the biggest thing I learned, Hoover, is that when I have kept somebody on our team who it wasn't the right fit, that I really did a disservice to everybody else on the team. And so, despite how hard that person worked and how passionate they were, and that and to me, that person not succeeding was always my failure. Like, why can't I get this together? I don't have them in the right spot. I haven't trained them correctly. And sometimes, there's no bad guy in that scenario, right? Although I do always think it's a failure of leadership, because in the end, I'm the one who hired the person. I'm the one who's trained them. I'm the one who's put them in that position. But I think the biggest point is I've kept somebody on for 2 years, probably past, and that was the biggest, going back in HR learning, is that this sounds trite, but I really like the expression, free your future. And so John will be like, oh, today we're gonna free somebody's future up. But they want to know that they're killing it and doing awesome, and they don't want to think that they're dragging down the team. But I think the biggest thing to me was realizing that I saddled the rest of my team just because I had to make a hard choice.
Guilty, many times, still guilty.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of.
Replay this for us later.
I've had clients I've seen do that as well. It's that you don't, the impact you're going to have on the person's life, it makes you kind of make allowances for a little different. So yes, I'm here.
Well, I think one of the greatest managers that I ever knew always said that whatever is going on with the employee should not be a surprise. So if they get fired, it should never come as any sort of surprise. It builds up to it, you write it up, you keep track of it, and that as long as you never surprise anybody, you are, taking care of your business and not just, firing them for no reason, that there's no guilt involved.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And that's something for us we've had on the learning curve, because in the beginning, I would think naively that I had done a lot of those steps, and so when there was a shock in that scenario, I was shocked, like, wait, what? We've met like every morning for the last 2 weeks building a plan out of this. But I realized that, so as long as you can catch up for more mature systems and accountability and accounting, which is something that we're always working on, but that was in those beginning days when I didn't have that. But I do agree, I think that's one of the best things I've heard, is it should always be an ongoing discussion and it shouldn't be a surprise.
We have a remote environment, that's a really good point, and so you have to be very sensitive of those things, especially in a remote environment, because there's no place for sarcasm or anything like that, because you can't see the person face to face. And so in the instances where we've had to let someone go, we made it very clear going into it, like, this is a code of conduct, you don't have to sign it because you don't have to commit to it, this is how it is. So making those expectations, like the team aware of that right away will help you. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times, just as humans, we often, like you were saying, like, we think we're communicating, and we could really communicate even better. Just as a little side note, who else has got a comment or a question for us?
Does anybody feel like they're in it in their business right now? Like, because I feel like we've always been in a cycle where, like, oh my God, we're on top of the world, and then like, oh my God, So for us, I feel like it's very cyclical, but there's this amazing article I read by Ari Weinswig of Zingerman's Creamery out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. They have an extremely successful business model. They practice open book management. We've sent our team, Amy's Ice Cream, Kirby Lane, a lot of people locally have sent their teams to training. But he has this one article which talks about the life cycle of a business, and I can send it to you later that if people want it. But it talks about how, because if you ever feel like, oh, we'll never make that mistake again, and then you get back and you're like, dang it, I'm here again. But the circumstances are a little bit different. What am I going to do about it? But it talks about this life cycle of a business and how you're always in a new place and at the same place at the same time. And I think it's a really inspiring. I read it often when I'm in the wine moment. So just if anybody, I think it'll be good to pass along. Sorry, there was a question out there.
Rebecca, you had your hand up, I think.
So, I've actually 2 questions. One is, what has surprised you about being in business for yourself?
how much luck is really a part of it. I mean, there have been things that, you know, when funds started to get low, something happened in my life to free up money elsewhere. Things that I wasn't expecting, you know, I would say that is one of the biggest surprises, that luck does play a part of it, but if you're not working hard, you're not going to be as lucky.
And that's what I call the divine stirring of the pudding, you know, because I don't know how this happened, but I'm grateful, you know. You know, for me, Rebecca, you know, I look back over the years and other restaurants that I've worked at, and I'm blown away at, you know, people that their memory runs long about positive things. I run across people and they will recount, you know, some, you know, kind deed, you know, so when you think about, you know, random acts of kindness, doing little things that you think, or you don't even think about at the moment, make a difference. And likewise in the food business, you know, like doing something memorable that you have no idea how you affected someone positively, and someone is like, my father's dying in Brackenridge, and you know, he wants, you know, one more meal from you, I'm here to pick it up, or something like that, or hey, will you, you know, cater my mother's funeral, that was her request. Things that, when you become part of someone's fabric, fiber, family history, those things constantly blow my mind, and I'm just like in disbelief every time someone shares a story, how something, be it food or be it a word or a deed, that made a difference 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, that's how old I am. But I'm always pleasantly surprised by those positive things, you know. I've got a lot of negatives that I won't, you know, harp on, that I'm, you know, likewise surprised by. And one of it I'll just share with you, it is kind of a change of mindset over the years, is like a lack of, and I'm gonna, with a broad brush say this, but you know, lack of like, you know, loyalty and accountability. I've seen like a lessening of that, and I'm so kind of used to, for example, my partner that I mentioned that helped me open up in '98. We never had a written business agreement. It was like old school, old Texas handshake. And when he passed away, because he had other businesses, you know, lawyers wanted to sit in on our conversation. And I said, look, we're going to end this the way we began this, you know, with my word, his word, our handshake. And so that's kind of one of the negatives. And again, I wouldn't recommend anyone, again, you know, trust but verify, but, you know, our relationship was an exception to that. So out of those, my lack of trust and verify has come my, you know, kind of like, oh my goodness, you know. And so I'm always surprised when people don't keep their word. So it's kind of that Pollyanna-ishness of me, you know, coming out. So that's kind of a, you know, kind of a negative surprise. I have to kind of remind myself, you know, when I slip into that, into that mindset. So one good, one bad, I guess, you know, to share with you.
I think mine is the same. I don't take a single dollar for granted. That we've had 4 couples get engaged in our shop. One guy dropped off this wedding ring and we had to hide it in the cheese wrapper and the picnic basket. And I thought, oh my God, he should sign a waiver. I'm like, because I don't know who painted this over to us. We, in our events program, that people host the 40th birthday celebration or 60th wedding anniversary, the fact that people come and they put their trust and their dollar and their money and these amazing experiences in us, I think, the fact that Aaron, last name will go unnoticed, and Maximiliano have been coming to us since they were 9 years old, and every week their mom thought they were spending their ice cream money at Dolce Vita next door, and they've been coming in buying blue cheese from us once a week. And one day he was like, what's new? And I said, we had a new cheese. He's like, that's not new. I was like, oh yeah, we haven't ever had this in the case. He said, look at my cheese log. We keep a record. And sure enough, we'd had the dang cheese, and he'd had it. I didn't even know. So those stories to me are absolutely awesome. And then I think the other thing that surprises me is when I'm in those, because I can't even remember how it feels right now because I'm on a high, but there are some hard days. And in those, when John and I say, all right, well, let's wait, if we want to, we can walk away. We're not tied to anything. I mean, would our egos be tied up and all? There'd be a lot of issues, yes, but fine, if it's not healthy for us, let's walk away. And we realize there's nothing we'd rather be doing. So even in the hardest, toughest times, I still don't want to work for anybody else. I still want to work for myself every day, and I love the challenge and I love the adventure of it. And that I went through one phase where I was like, I just don't want to build any more character, right? I'm done with character building. I was like, I just want a normal day. And then I realized how absurd that is, because I'm pretty sure John and I would go crazy in a normal day. So I think that is also extremely surprising to me, is that I love it. I love the thrill of it. So.
And Rebecca, one more.
Okay. We have a good time. I can ask one question.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, while we all like to think that every idea that we launch is just broken, and I think for your ego to stay intact and be in business, you have to think that way. But we all know that we've done some things, everybody in every business has done something that you just sort of go, I don't know, we'll see if it works. And so what have you all done that fell into that category that was like, let's try and see, I don't know, maybe your partner thought it was a great idea, but you're like, maybe not so much, and it blew you away?
I opened a cheese shop. I mean, we honestly, beforehand, all of our friends, our parents, this and that, but really, are you sure? Are you sure this is gonna work? You really wanna put all this money into this? Well, I hope so, thanks, yeah, like, yes, exactly. So for me, it's every idea we launch is that way. I mean, how do you ever know? I don't think I ever have a big enough ego to be like, this is gonna be a slam dunk. I mean, heck, recently I said, okay, this is a really cool idea to me. We're gonna launch a cheesy bus tour, and tickets are $100, and you're gonna get on a bus for 5 hours with John and I, and drink a lot of beer and a lot of wine, and eat a lot of cheese, and we're gonna visit a local farm, and visit Chester King, but we were just kind of doing it because it sounded like our fun day, play day, and it sold out within minutes. So we were like, what, are you kidding? So to me, every single thing. Now I also tried to launch the Curd Herd, which was a walking group, and that has not gotten off the ground. But I think every idea we have that's the fun of it, is pushing the ball forward. But maybe you're speaking differently on something that we really are investing in. Because those other ideas aren't as big of investment ideas. But for us, the mere idea to launch a cheese shop is that example, I think.
I would say for the first 2 or so years of business, it was a bad idea because we didn't have a revenue model. We had an idea of how we were going to make money, but it wasn't working. And so the lesson there was don't do that for two years. We have ideas from the team all the time, and our customers give us ideas, not intentionally, but they'll say something like in feedback, and we'll think of it, oh, that's something we should start doing. And so just trying things and seeing if it sticks is always fun, but I would say just the 2 years of not having a business model in place or an idea of revenue was a bad idea.
And I'm constantly reminded that, there's no guarantees and no home runs, right? So you do take that risk. That's what entrepreneurs do. And one of the ones that popped in my head is kind of funny, and I'm sure the managers whisper about it. They don't want to embarrass me and remind me of it. But when we were doing a couple of food trailers on East 12th Street, partly was to help out one of our delivery guys. He was trying to liquidate some things, and so I bought this big old inflatable slide for and I thought, man, this is going to be the great, perfect attraction for the community, for the kids, to get them there. It's, big old thing. And, we opened it up for a couple of events, but mostly it's been sitting in stores the last, 3-4 years, So, you have all those kind of, weird things like, well, it was a great idea at the time, and I was helping this guy out, and, it just didn't work out that way. But even going back to pre-opening, 2 years before we opened in '98, before we even found the location, our partner, he acquired a contract to demolish an old Motorola kitchen out at the Oak Hill Y. And we had this timeline to rip everything out. And we had no idea what would be usable, what would fit into the kitchen, what we could use. And so we took some stuff, recycled for money for me to pay bills on, took other stuff to storage, and it worked out. So we had all this stuff, to just ultimately figure out and make fit into a kitchen. So, you just kind of take these blind, leaps of faith, and sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't, and just, part of the landscape. I've got plenty of those stories I'll just keep buried for now, but you get the idea. You swing, you miss, you keep swinging,
I think going back to also knowing when to say no, which is really difficult for me because I'm a yes girl. Yes, let's do it, yes. So knowing when to say no. But we had a mission on paper when we started, but we really last year have gone back and done a lot of mission work and vision work, so I think it's never too late to do that. And so now the goal is, in theory, when we get asked to do something, or if I want to launch this new business idea, does it meet our mission? Doesn't meet, and so going back to that sage old, like #1 school business book is, know who you are and what you do, and so will that reinforce it, and then can you be viable from it? Because one year, there's that Austin Craft Beer Week, and we are fortunate, want to partner up with us a lot, and we usually sell out our tastings. And next thing I knew, we were doing a beer and cheese pairing 6 nights in a row. I think that each one of those partners was hoping that we would bring a sold out crowd, and all of a sudden when I look at it all in a row, it was a horrible decision on our part. Instead of getting behind and really supporting 2 or 3 special collaborations, I watered them all down, and then I don't know that any of them sold out. And so just, again, knowing those boundaries and taking it all strategically in mind.
Yeah, and I think trying is the most important thing when you have an idea. Not getting too hung up on perfecting it, but because the perfect is the enemy of the good. Trying an idea, just getting it out there. When I first started doing handwritten notes to every person I met with, the postcard had the return address in a place where the post office read it and sent it to my P.O. box. So I tested it to see if it worked, and I sent myself a thank you card and ended up in my P.O. box, and I said, well, I gotta white that out now, so.
Okay, did you have a follow-up, Rebecca? I've got a couple more here.
No, I'll let somebody else.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's see. Go ahead, Lynn. And then you guys. Go ahead, Lynn.
Mine might actually take a while, but this is a panel about success stories. So I'm curious to hear from each of you, how do you define a success, and why do you think your business is a success?
Well, I think we got invited up here before we really knew it was called Success Stories.
You gotta fit your answers.
Gentlemen, you guys want to go?
I would say that the credit all belongs to my team. I couldn't have done it alone at all.
Well, what do you define as success first? What makes you think a business is successful? Because you said it's not about money, right? So maybe that's
They can't all be
not-
about money, no,
that's
but
not defined.
a business
So
needs to
maybe
make
I
money.
would be curious to hear from each of you, what is your definition of success for your business and how you've attained it?
I would say that from just something that I can measure, it's customers that come on and stay with us. Because we don't do any contracts, so they don't have to stay with us longer than 30 days. Actually, they don't have to stay with us at all. So seeing how many customers come on and stay with us is my barometer of success. And hearing feedback and positive feedback from customers every time I ask, is there something we could be doing better or differently? And if they answer it in a positive light, then that's my measure of success. It's nothing to do with the money that we have coming in or going out or whatever. It's how many customers we have and how happy they are, because that's our mission, is make people happy. That's #1.
And as I mentioned before, I didn't know what panel I'd be on either when I agreed to, because again, Rebecca, I should be on the work in progress panel, not success panel. But that's a good thing, because I'm still in the game. So success for me is to still be in the game, as I've said, and then also to my gratification and success. One, you got to pay the bills. The bottom line, just to sustain whatever your goals, passion, whatever it is. But being able to, the part of me that's a people pleaser, so to see that we're pleasing people is for me is success. And to see, as I mentioned before, that we have seen families be nurtured and grow up, and also I am a product of the community, so to know that I'm putting something back in the soil that spawned me. And for me, success, and I probably should have said this earlier, again, I really think I'm a caretaker. That's how I see myself more than an owner, because the ultimate success, and why I believe I'm a work in progress, is success for me is to be a working role model, to let people know, to create a blueprint. Ultimately for me, I want that to be the legacy of dreams that can be, that are possible, with hard work and determination, and to create, hope in the community. And there's a lot of hopeless people that I know in the community that I grew up in and live in. And to just walk the walk, be an example of perception of success, so people can dream about what's possible. And one of the things that are real near and dear to me is an article in American Statesman that was titled Dreams of a Dishwasher, because that was my first job in this business, and I'm planning on making a career. And that so holds true. So for me, the work in progress, and to be that role model, to be that blueprint, for me, that's my success as I speak to you.
Every day we unlock the doors to our business as a success. It took me, again, coming from the nonprofit world and from this, like, I don't know, young, naive college girl, I'm gonna save the world. I didn't like talking about money in the first couple of years of our business, which is really bad. We also didn't make money in the first couple of years of our business. And I've learned to get over that, because if we don't have money, we can't do good things. I can't pay my people more. I can't do awesome fundraisers. Actually, I think you can do cool, unique fundraisers without some money. But having money allows us to do a lot more and to make a much bigger impact. And so absolutely does a key to the success have to be bottom line driven. I can say that with my head on my shoulders right now, because 2015 was actually an extremely non-profitable year for us. Growing too big, too quickly, arguably, but our operations costs got away from us and our labor costs. And we're 18 right now. We were at 24 that year, just to show you. And I intentionally did that because I thought that meant taking better care of my people, so that if somebody's sick that day and somebody's on vacation, it doesn't put an undue burden on the whole rest of the team because we have extra labor. Well, that just means the other 360 days you have too much labor. So anyway, those were some mistakes I made. So absolutely have I learned that I can't be scared to talk about money, which for me is difficult. Yeah, so, because I used to think, I don't want to be that business that says it's all about money. We want to show that we care about our people. But then I realized I was going too far and I have to own it, and that we need money to do good things. You need a viable model. That being said, so for us, a successful day goes to our core principle, and it's passion with purpose. And did I live today passionately, and did I live today with a greater purpose? So when we get a lot of people who come up to us and say, I have this great business idea, can I sit down with you? And John and I, a lot of people sat down with us, so we sit down with a lot of people and have a lot of coffee. And I feel like there's usually one of two camps. One, it's what I call the get-rich-quick scheme. And so they have a purpose, but it's like, oh, there's not this app. I got this app idea for this. This is what I'm going to do. What do you think? I'm like, great. Are you passionate about it? Where's that drive behind it? What's the greater purpose behind that filling a need? Then we get a lot of people who are really passionate about something, but I don't know how they're going to turn it into a viable business, which doesn't mean they can't keep it as a hobby or do it and have some cool money-generating scheme on Etsy, but will they be able to sustain their livelihood and that of a team off it? So, for instance, you're going to weave blankets. Okay, great. Are you going to weave blankets and then send them to all the homeless communities around town and then have high bidders hang them in museums, and somebody comes and pays $20,000, and then that's how it just sustained itself somehow? I don't know. So for us, what makes our business work is that both John and I and every single person in our business, I think we feel that we day-to-day are living passionately and with purpose. And that greater purpose is to sell good, real food that doesn't have a lot of stuff in it, that's made by good, real, hardworking, salt-of-the-earth people, and communicating that story. And so passion with purpose, if I don't feel like I did it for the day, then I feel like I need to get up the next day, and how do I do? And John has really taken us forward this last year. We all have a daily huddle every morning now, and it's 5 minutes. We're not allowed to stand any longer. We all go around the room. It's our whole management team. And what's your one win from yesterday and your one priority today? And we all fall in the trap of it of like, well, today I got to send the weekly email, I got to, nope, what's your one priority? And the priority means what's the one thing that you do today that if you do nothing else, you'll feel like you took your program forward and you were a success at work today. So it generally isn't get through all my email. It isn't whatever, maybe it's that one big sales call or that following up with that one producer. But so for us, that's driving us forward, I think, every day too. So if you can do one thing each day that's going to make a difference in your business, and for us, identify that passion with purpose. So.
Fantastic. I think I've got one more question. Yes.
My name is Silas Parker. A couple quick secrets about myself before I ask the question. One, dishwasher, my first job at 15 years old. You learn a lot of hard work, and you get to dream a lot about what you want to be when you grow up. I worked for two brothers who built a family-owned business here in Austin. I worked for them for 10 years in my prior career. and worked my way up from a sales guy to the top of the company, and then watched the company quickly go out of business when one of the brothers died. And I asked myself, why? What happened? And if you ever wonder what happened to Pinky's Wireless, which was a staple in Austin for a long time, that's what happened to that company. So when I went into my next job, I said, I want to help business owners make sure that never happens to them. So I opened a financial planning firm. My company's Daylight Wealth. We've been in Austin since 2006, helping business owners. And when I'm working with business owners, especially successful ones or those trying to be successful, helping them build reserves, liquid, conservative reserves, not lines of credit, but wealth that they can get to cover operating expenses. It's tough in times of prosperity because they generally get amnesia during prosperous times. So for the longevity that you guys have displayed, are there any financial habits that you did that helped you be successful as business owners?
I know that theory about reserves, but I'm going to go back to my handle on the monkey bar. And I'm just grateful to be holding on. I know that.
If you could get here, would you be happy?
I know I know the theory, but I've never, and I've said that to a couple of folk here, I've never been able at a place after even 18 years ago, you know, I got it, I'm here, I'm there. I've never relaxed enough, and then part of it I know is needing to achieve that balance, and I heard you so well on that, you know, to enjoy the ride, enjoy the moment, because you look up like, oh my God, 18 years have passed. So, you know, work on that, and I know, you know, theoretical, you know, but I'm not there with like very razor thin margins, increased costs, you know, labor, food, everything else. It's still kind of like, again, you know, endangered species, but grateful. I'm not complaining because I'm still in the game. But the reality is I have not been able to execute the principle of reserves. And retirement is not in my vocabulary.
So one of the financial things that I've practiced throughout the business is knowing exactly what my time is worth and my team's time is worth down to the minute. So whenever we evaluate new software, evaluate a new process, a new way of doing something, we look at how much time is this going to cost the people involved, what are they getting paid for that time, is the software going to save that, how much of that is going to be saved, so is it worth it to invest in the software, how it can save us money. So I look at things in terms of how much time it either saves me or the team, and that's the financial thing that I use to kind of make sure that we're afloat. It's just calculated. I mean, I take an Excel spreadsheet and I literally put every single piece of thing that we spend money on. And I know exactly what everyone makes down to the minute. So, and the nice thing about being contract-based labor is that I pay them per minute. So when they clock in, they're making money. When they clock out, they're not. So I know how much time they spent with every customer.
Time schedule.
Exactly, yeah.
Even though we've been alive 7 years, I'd say that we're still too financially immature, and I'm married to a CPA. That's he's my business partner. But I agree, we didn't have profits in 2015. Then in 2016, we paid for half of insurance, health insurance, before it was mandated for all of our team before we could afford it. Every year I say I'm not going to make an emotional decision giving a raise. The money has to be there. And then we sit down and I'm like, here's a quarter raise, we'll figure it out. And every year we do that, which again, I'm fired from management. But so absolutely, and are there ways, I think you would probably coach us and say that even if you don't have all these reserves, you should still always be putting back a certain percentage or doing this. Right now I feel like Austin is expensive to live in, and every little bit we can squeak out, we're trying to funnel back to our team and the financial sustainability of our business right now just to keep it going.
And also, let me say, over the years, you know, we have reinvested in you know, the risk of expansion, right? So, you know, those are costs that we put out there that in turn had to, you know, recover, opening up and closing restaurants, San Antonio, One Northwest. So, you know, even after they closed, you know, we still had agreements like, you know, we're going to pay you a little bit a month, you know, we're going to get you paid off. So, you know, so the reserves, quote unquote, has been reinvesting in potential opportunities again, understanding there's no home runs and no guarantees, but reinvesting in the futures, that entrepreneurial spirit to throw something and try to get it to stick for you.
I think to your point, Hoover, I gotta defend my husband now because he'll be like, I can't believe you said all that about me. He would say we have made certain smart decisions along the way. So we lease our cheese shop, but we own our cheese house, and that's where I joke the bank owns it forever and owns me in my house personally forever. But if something were to happen to our business, we have that asset. We also have felt we keep growing to meet demand. And so we're working on other locations and what, but our goal would be if we were to exit, do we have a business that looks good on the books that somebody would want to buy? And so yes, we are absolutely always working on those two things. Sorry, honey.
One more question back here, yes ma'am.
Sure, I have a question for Ross. If your team is remote and they're not locally based, where are they at?
They're all in the same time zone because we found that that's extremely important to the business owners. But I've got people in Costa Rica, South America, not in Austin, but in other parts of Texas as well. I've got a developer in Seattle, a couple people in New York, but mostly just the central time zone. And with good internet.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much. And you have an applause for